Terran wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his greasy hand. Sparks flew from the welding torch, illuminating the dim workshop with brief, sharp bursts of light. The walls were lined with shelves full of ship parts, engines, and broken gadgets, all collected over years of repairs in this dusty edge of spaceport outpost. The smell of oil, burnt circuits, and scorched metal clung to everything. It was another long day. And Terran had just finished fixing a ship's failing hyperdrive when he heard a soft scuttling at the far corner of the workshop. He froze, listening. The sound was light, careful, almost timid. Usually, scavengers did not dare step into his workshop while he worked. Most knew better than to disturb Terran when he was busy. But this was different. It was quiet, almost like the sound of small claws brushing against metal scraps. "Who's there?" Terran called, his voice gravelly from years of shouting over engines. A small figure stepped into the dim light. At first, Terran thought it was a child, though the shape seemed wrong. It had scales that shimmered faintly in the glow of the welding sparks, a long, slender tail curling behind it, and wings that were folded awkwardly along its back. Its eyes were wide and cautious, glowing softly with an amber hue. Just some leftovers, sir." The voice was timid, almost pleading. Terran squinted. He had seen many things in his life, but not this. A dragon? Here? In a human spaceport? And yet, the creature was small. No taller than a human child. And its posture suggested it was more afraid than threatening. Its wings twitched nervously as it held out a small bundle of metal scraps and old food wrappers. "Leftovers," Terran said, lowering his welding torch slowly. "You want food?" The little dragon nodded, eyes glimmering with hope. Its claws held the bundle carefully, as though it was precious. Terran's first instinct was to shoo it away. Most scavengers were tricky. They stole first and begged later. But something about this one was different. The way it tilted its head, the soft, unguarded pleading in its eyes, there was intelligence there, not just hunger. "Come here," he said finally, stepping back from the workbench. "Sit down. Don't touch anything." The dragon's tail flicked nervously, but it obeyed, crouching on the floor near the far wall. Terran tossed it a chunk of hard bread and a bit of dried meat. The creature sniffed it, then devoured it quickly, careful not to make a mess. Terran watched silently, curious. He had heard tales of intelligent alien species, but meeting one in person, small and vulnerable, was different. There was a quiet dignity in the way it ate, a grace that betrayed its small size. After it finished, the dragon hesitated, then pulled from its small satchel a tiny, broken mechanical device. It was made of shiny metal, but wires stuck out awkwardly, and a small gear was bent. The dragon placed it carefully in front of Terran, looking at him with a mixture of pride and fear. "I can fix it," it said softly. Terran raised an eyebrow. "You can fix that?" The dragon nodded. Its claws moved nervously over the device. I try. I watch. I learn." Terran leaned over, examining the gadget. It was a common piece of ship machinery, something any apprentice mechanic might be able to handle. But the craftsmanship, or the attempt at it, was surprisingly methodical. The dragon had made careful, deliberate adjustments. Even if it failed, it had understood the principle. "Well," Terran said slowly, "I don't usually let visitors touch my work, but I might just watch you for a minute." The dragon's eyes lit up. It handed him a tiny wrench with delicate claws. Terran hesitated, then nodded. Slowly, he guided the creature's small hands over the device, showing it where the wires needed connection and how the gears should turn. The dragon followed every instruction carefully, absorbing every detail like a sponge. Hours passed. Terran worked alongside the dragon in silence, interrupted only by the occasional hiss of steam or the sharp snap of metal under the torch. The dragon, whose name he learned was Zephyra, worked tirelessly. She made mistakes, but she corrected them quickly. Terran found himself watching her with a growing sense of awe. The creature was not just intelligent, It was resourceful, precise, and patient. By nightfall, the little gadget was not only repaired but improved. A small modification Zephyra had added made it more efficient than the original design. Terran stared at it, shaking his head in disbelief. "You did this?" he asked. Zephyra nodded, a shy smile curling her lips. "I try. I want to learn." Terran felt something stir inside him. He had spent years fixing ships, repairing engines, and teaching apprentices. But none had ever surprised him like this small dragon. There was a spark there, a potential he could not ignore. Just then, a loud crash outside the workshop made them both jump. Terran grabbed his wrench and went to the door. Outside, a group of scavengers had cornered a delivery droid, trying to strip it for parts. They didn't notice Zephyra, watching from the shadows, her wings tensing. Terran shook his head. "Don't get involved," he muttered, but Zephyra had already leaped into action. With a burst of speed, she darted toward the droid, pulling wires and turning knobs faster than Terran could follow. The scavengers froze as the droid's system sparked and shuddered, its arms locking up and sending their tools flying. Terran watched in disbelief as Zephyra moved with precision, anticipating the droid's response, countering the scavengers' every attempt. It wasn't strength or size that mattered, she was clever, outthinking them at every step. Within moments, the scavengers had fled, muttering curses and shaking their fists. Terran rubbed his eyes. I've never seen anything like that," he admitted. Zephyra looked at him, breathing heavily, her eyes shining. I protect what's mine. I learn fast." Terran nodded slowly, a new respect growing in him. He realized that this small creature, once pleading for scraps, had potential far beyond anything he had expected. She could learn, adapt, and even protect herself in ways humans could not. As they returned to the workshop, Terran handed Zephyra a clean rag to wipe her claws. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "you could be useful around here. If you want, I can teach you more real mechanics stuff." Zephyra's eyes widened in surprise. "Teach me?" "Yes," Terran said, leaning against a workbench. "But you have to work hard. No shortcuts. Mistakes will cost more than just scraps of metal." Zephyra nodded vigorously. I work hard. I want to learn everything." Terran chuckled softly, shaking his head. He didn't know why, but he felt a sense of anticipation he hadn't felt in years. Most of the time, he worked alone, fixing ships and barely talking to anyone, but something about Zephyra sparked curiosity, hope, even excitement. Perhaps this small dragon could change not just his life, but something bigger. The night deepened, and the stars shone through the dusty skylight of the workshop. Terran and Zephyra sat among tools and scraps, planning the next day. Terran began teaching her basic engine repairs, and Zephyra listened, absorbing every word. For the first time in years, Terran felt that familiar spark of possibility. The feeling that hard work, intelligence, and determination could turn the ordinary into something extraordinary. And as he looked at Zephyra, sitting there with a small wrench in her claws, he realized that maybe the universe had just given him an unexpected partner. Outside, the spaceport hummed with activity. Ships docked and departed, carrying traders, explorers, and wanderers. Inside the workshop, a human and a small dragon worked side by side, creating something new out of scraps and determination. It was the beginning of a partnership that would challenge expectations, defy danger, and perhaps, in time, change everything. And somewhere deep inside Terran, a thought lingered. This little dragon, once pleading for leftovers, was going to teach him more than he could ever imagine. The next morning, the spaceport was alive with activity. Ships of all shapes and sizes hummed, clanked, and rattled as crews prepared for departures. Terran and Zephyra stood inside the workshop, which now smelled faintly of metal polish and burned oil from the previous night. Terran had already set up a small workspace for Zephyra, giving her some basic tools and old gadgets to practice on. Zephyra's eyes gleamed with excitement. Her small claws hovered over the first device, a broken navigation module from a freighter. She carefully inspected the wires, turning it over in her hands, her wings twitching with anticipation. I try first," she said softly. Terran nodded. "Go ahead. Just remember. Patience. Don't rush." Hours passed. Zephyra worked tirelessly, adjusting circuits, testing connections, and carefully piecing together the module. Occasionally, Terran would step over to guide her, showing her how a wire should connect or how to tighten a small screw without damaging the delicate mechanisms. Zephyra learned quickly. Every mistake became a lesson, and soon, she was making improvements on her own, suggesting better connections, and even adding tiny modifications that made the device more efficient. Terran leaned against the workbench, watching her with a mixture of pride and disbelief. "I've never seen anyone learn this fast," he muttered. "Even some of my apprentices took weeks to get this far." Zephyra paused and looked at him. I want to be useful. I want to learn more than just scraps." Terran chuckled softly. "You're already useful. But you're right. There's more to learn. Engines, circuits, hyperdrive systems. It's all complicated. But if you work hard, you can do it." Before they could continue, a loud commotion outside interrupted them. The sounds of yelling, clanging metal, and engines revving filled the spaceport. Terran frowned. "Not again," he muttered. Peering through the workshop doorway, he saw a group of scavengers trying to strip a newly docked cargo ship. The ship's crew had fled after a minor malfunction, leaving the vessel defenseless. The scavengers were armed with tools and makeshift weapons, confident that no one would stop them. Zephyra's tail twitched nervously. "I help?" she asked. Terran hesitated. "You stay here," he said. "This is dangerous." But Zephyra had already slipped out, moving with surprising speed and grace. She darted among the scavengers' feet, knocking over tools and pulling at wires. One of the scavengers swung a metal pipe at her, but she ducked, flipping backward and landing on a crate. She moved fast, precise, and clever. Terran grabbed his wrench and followed. By the time he reached the ship, Zephyra had already disabled several of the scavengers' tools, causing sparks and smoke to fly. The scavengers cursed, frustrated at their sudden misfortune. Terran watched in awe. Zephyra wasn't strong, but she was smarter, faster, and more resourceful than anyone he had faced. She led the scavengers on a wild chase around the ship, tripping them into cargo crates and shutting down their improvised machinery. Within minutes, the scavengers had fled, muttering threats and shaking their fists, leaving the ship untouched. Terran shook his head. "I don't know whether to scold you or praise you," he said as Zephyra returned. Breathing heavily but proud, Zephyra tilted her head. "I protect. I learn fast." Terran sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Well, you're definitely useful. I can't deny that." They returned to the workshop. Terran decided it was time to take her learning further. He brought out a complex engine component, the kind he usually repaired himself. "This is advanced," he said. "It's part of a ship's hyperdrive system. One mistake, and it could explode, or worse, fail in flight. You understand?" Zephyra nodded solemnly. "I try. Careful." Terran guided her hands, showing her the delicate balance of wiring, circuits, and power regulators. Zephyra absorbed every instruction, asking questions and testing her understanding. She moved quickly, her claws precise and careful, making adjustments that Terran himself had not thought of. By midday, the hyperdrive module was fully repaired and improved. Terran stared at it in disbelief. You actually did it. You improved it." Zephyra's eyes sparkled. "I learn. I help." Terran felt a mixture of pride and unease. He had always believed that human ingenuity was unmatched. Yet here was Zephyra, small and timid, accomplishing feats that would have taken even the best human mechanics much longer. He realized that her potential went far beyond his expectations. Just as they were about to clean up, another challenge arrived. A delivery ship docked, and its pilot stumbled into the spaceport, panic in his eyes. "They're coming back!" he shouted. A rival gang ship's armed. "They want the cargo, and won't stop for anything." Terran frowned. "Looks like we're not done for the day." Zephyra's wings twitched. "I go?" Terran hesitated. "It's dangerous." "Too dangerous." But Zephyra's eyes were determined. "I help. I learn faster if..." "Face real problem." Terran studied her. He could see it now. She was not afraid of danger, only cautious. And more importantly, she had a mind that could think faster than most humans. "All right," he said reluctantly, "but follow my lead. No risks we don't need." They climbed into the small maintenance vehicle and raced toward the cargo ship. The rival gang's ships were already hovering nearby, scanning for the cargo. Terran guided the vehicle carefully, keeping out of their direct line of fire, while Zephyra examined the gang's ships with her keen eyes. She pointed out weak spots in their designs, noting which systems were vulnerable. Terran realized with growing amazement that she could read the ships like a blueprint in her mind. "You..." Zephyra nodded. "I see patterns. I think fast." Together, they worked to disable the gang's systems. Zephyra suggested cutting power to certain thrusters, while rerouting signals to create false readings. Terran followed her instructions, amazed at how quickly she adapted to new problems. The rival gang was confused and frustrated, their ships unable to lock on to the cargo. Finally, with one clever maneuver, Zephyra rerouted the gang's targeting systems, causing one of their ships to collide with an abandoned satellite. Sparks flew as the ship tumbled harmlessly out of control, and the remaining gang ships retreated, muttering curses. Terran exhaled. "I don't know whether to laugh or cry. That was incredible." Zephyra smiled, small but proud. "I protect. I learn." Back at the workshop, Terran realized something important. Zephyra was no longer just a scavenger pleading for scraps. She was clever, resourceful, and courageous. She could think, improvise, and act faster than most humans he had trained for years. He sat down beside her. "You know," he said, "if you keep learning like this, you could change everything. Not just for me, but for everyone out there in space." Zephyra looked at him with wide, earnest eyes. I want to help. I want to learn more." Terran nodded slowly. "Then we start tomorrow. Bigger projects, harder problems. I'll teach you everything I know. But you have to promise me one thing." Zephyra tilted her head. "What?" "Never give up," he said. "No matter how hard, no matter how dangerous, you keep learning. You keep trying. That's the only way to get better." Zephyra nodded solemnly. "I promise." That night, Terran watched Zephyra as she cleaned her tools carefully, arranging them with precision. She was small, but her focus and determination were immense. He felt a strange sense of hope. Perhaps humanity was not the only intelligent species capable of ingenuity and courage. Perhaps, with allies like Zephyra, the universe could become a place where humans and others could work together to achieve incredible things. Outside, the stars glittered, distant and cold. But inside the workshop, a human and a small dragon worked side by side, dreaming of the possibilities ahead. For Terran, the day had started like any other, grinding, tiresome, and full of minor repairs. But it had ended with awe, respect, and the sense that the galaxy had just offered him something extraordinary. A partner who could think, learn, and act in ways that no one had imagined. For Zephyra, the day had begun with leftovers and ended with triumph. She had faced real challenges, solved complex problems, and discovered that she was capable of far more than she had ever believed. And as she curled up near a pile of spare parts to rest, she thought quietly to herself, Tomorrow, she would learn even more, because for both of them, this was only the beginning. The next morning, Terran and Zephyra prepared for a new challenge. A derelict starship had drifted near the edge of human-controlled space. A massive hulk reported to contain lost human technology. No one dared approach it. Its hull was unstable, and rumors of rogue systems and failing gravity fields made even the bravest pilots hesitate. But Terran saw opportunity, and Zephyra, of course, insisted on coming. "Are you sure about this?" Terran asked as they climbed into the maintenance vehicle. His hands tightened around the controls. Zephyra's wings twitched with excitement. Help. I learn more if face real ship," she said. Terran studied her small, determined figure. She was fast, clever, and brave, but the derelict could be deadly. Still, he knew she was right. There was no better way to learn than through experience. "All right," he said, setting the vehicle on course. "Hold on." The journey to the drifting ship was tense. Terran piloted the vehicle carefully, weaving between floating debris and twisted metal. The derelict loomed ahead, like a dark, broken skeleton in space. Its hull was cracked, sparks flickered along exposed circuits, and strange sounds echoed from within, distorted by the vacuum. Zephyra's eyes widened. Dangerous." "Yes," Terran said, "but worth it. Keep your claws ready and your mind sharp." As they docked, the hatch of the derelict groaned and swung open. The interior was a maze of collapsed corridors, exposed wiring, and floating debris. Gravity was failing in sections, causing objects to drift weightlessly. Terran and Zephyra moved carefully, securing themselves with magnetic boots and grappling hooks. "This place," Zephyra whispered. Not safe." Terran nodded. "Stay close. Watch my back. We don't know what's active in here." They moved deeper into the ship. Broken screens flickered with static, and alarms long dead echoed faintly in their ears. Terran examined each corridor before stepping, careful not to trigger any malfunctioning systems. Zephyra, small and nimble, darted ahead, inspecting the machinery with sharp eyes. Suddenly, she froze. "Stop! System active!" she hissed. Terran looked where she pointed. A dormant alien AI core floated in a section of the ship, wires dangling and lights blinking faintly. Most humans would have avoided it, fearing a trap or malfunction. But Zephyra moved forward, her claws delicately brushing over the connectors. "Try to reactivate," she said. Terran swallowed. "Careful. You don't know what it will do." Zephyra ignored him, focused entirely on the alien device. She adjusted the wiring, realigned circuits, and rerouted power carefully, her mind calculating every possibility. Sparks flew, and a faint hum began as the core powered up. Lights flickered across the room, illuminating alien symbols and unknown interfaces. The AI's voice echoed softly in a language Terran could not understand. Zephyra's eyes widened. "It recognizes me. It knows intelligent." Terran stared. "It trusts you?" "Trusts you," Zephyra nodded. "It share knowledge. If I careful." For hours, she worked, learning the alien schematics, analyzing starship designs, and decoding propulsion methods humans had never seen. Terran watched silently, amazed at her focus and understanding. Every so often, Zephyra would explain a concept to him, showing how modifications could improve efficiency or safety. Terran realized that the potential here was staggering. This small dragon was not just repairing, she was innovating. But danger was never far. The derelict's failing systems began to react unpredictably. Gravity shifted violently, throwing Terran against a wall. Sparks rained from overhead, and some corridors started collapsing. "Zephyra, we need to go," Terran shouted. Not finished," she cried back. Her wings unfurled as she leapt toward another control panel, stabilizing the AI core's output. Terran scrambled to keep up, guiding her through collapsing passages, dodging falling debris and preventing systems from overloading. It was chaos, yet Zephyra moved with precision and speed, her mind constantly calculating solutions. She rerouted energy to critical points, disabled rogue drones, and kept the AI core stable, even as alarms blared around them. Finally, the core stabilized fully, its lights glowing steadily. The derelict ship's systems came alive in a controlled pattern, and the floating cargo compartments aligned safely. Terran exhaled, barely able to believe what had just happened. "You did it," he said, voice shaking. "You saved this ship. You controlled it." Zephyra's chest rose and fell rapidly. I learned fast." Terran's gaze softened. In that moment, he didn't just see Zephyra as a scavenger, or even as an apprentice mechanic. He saw a partner, a mind capable of understanding, creating, and mastering technology far beyond anything he had imagined. "Look at this," Zephyra said, pointing to the AI interface. "Schematics, starship design, unknown technology. I understand." Terran's jaw dropped. You really understand it. This could change everything: human engineering, starship design, even exploration. After with this is the doubled in dine," Zephyra nodded. "I want to help humans learn more together." As they prepared to leave, a sudden tremor shook the ship. A hidden section of the hull began to collapse. Terran grabbed Zephyra's arm. "We have to move now." They ran through twisting corridors, dodging falling debris and unstable machinery. Zephyra's small size and agility allowed her to navigate narrow spaces, guiding Terran around dangerous sections. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the ship's metal groaned as they moved closer to the exit. Finally, they reached the maintenance vehicle. Terran piloted it carefully as Zephyra secured the AI core. The derelict lurched violently, then began to drift uncontrollably, but they managed to stabilize it enough to escape. Once clear of the derelict, Terran exhaled deeply, staring at Zephyra. I don't know how to say this. You just changed everything I thought I knew about aliens. About intelligence. About capability." Zephyra looked up at him, her small chest heaving. "I just want to help. I want to learn, and..." Terran nodded slowly. "You're more than useful. You're remarkable. I see now. I underestimated you. But not anymore." The realization settled in his mind. Zephyra was not just a scavenger, not just a student. She was a being of immense potential, capable of mastering alien technology and human engineering alike. She could be humanity's ally, its partner in exploration and innovation. For Zephyra, the experience had been transformative. She had faced real danger, solved complex problems, and discovered that her intelligence and skills could make a difference. She felt a surge of pride and determination. There was so much more to learn, so much more she could do. Terran guided the maintenance vehicle back to the spaceport, but neither spoke much. Words felt unnecessary. Each understood the other's capabilities and intentions. They were no longer teacher and student, scavenger and mechanic. They were partners, bound by experience, intelligence, and trust. Back at the workshop, Terran and Zephyra began reviewing the alien schematics. They spent hours analyzing the designs, discussing modifications, and planning new starship systems. Terran realized that with Zephyra's help, they could create something extraordinary. Ships that were faster, safer, and more advanced than anything humans had built before. "I never thought I'd see this," Terran said, shaking his head. "A small dragon, saving a derelict, understanding alien technology, and actually improving it." Zephyra's eyes sparkled. "I just try. I want to help humans. I want learn everything." Terran smiled faintly. Then we'll do it together. We'll learn, we'll build, and we'll explore. And maybe, just maybe, we can change the way humans see the universe. Maybe we can change the way humans see you. 4. Zephyra tilted her head, curious. Change? How? Terran's eyes softened. You're not just a scavenger. You're not just an alien trying to survive. You're capable. You're brilliant. And anyone who sees you now will see that too. You're a partner. A teacher. An ally. You can inspire humans to think bigger, to reach farther. Zephyra's tail flicked nervously. I inspire? Yes, Terran said firmly. You can. And you will. That night, the stars shone brightly above the spaceport. Terran and Zephyra worked side by side, surrounded by tools, gadgets, and alien schematics. For Terran, the day had begun with a dangerous mission and ended with a revelation. The little dragon who had once begged for leftovers was now a force of intelligence and ingenuity, capable of changing everything humans thought they knew about technology, the universe, and themselves. Zephyra curled up near a pile of tools, her mind racing with possibilities. She had faced danger, solved problems, and learned more in a single day than she had ever imagined possible. And as she drifted to sleep, she knew one thing for certain. Tomorrow, she would learn even more. And together with Terran, they could achieve greatness. Because the moment Terran truly looked at her not as a scavenger, not as a creature to feed, but as a mind capable of incredible things, everything had changed. And from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same again. The spaceport was quieter than usual that morning. Most of the ships had departed, leaving only a few crews and traders going about their business. Terran and Zephyra worked in the workshop, now cluttered with alien schematics, tools, and starship components. The events of the derelict mission had changed everything. Terran looked at Zephyra differently now, not as a small scavenger, not as a curious apprentice, but as a partner. She had proven her intelligence, courage, and resourcefulness. Terran examined a partially assembled starship engine, his fingers tracing the modifications Zephyra had suggested. These changes, he said slowly, they could improve fuel efficiency by 20%. Faster jumps, fewer failures. Humans have never seen anything like this. Zephyra tilted her head. I help. I want humans. Learn more. Together. Yes, Terran said firmly. And that's exactly what we'll do. We'll show them that humans and others can work together to do more than anyone thought possible. Word of their success on the derelict spread quickly across the spaceport. Pilots, traders, and mechanics came to see the human and the small dragon who had repaired the derelict and improved alien technology. At first, Terran tried to discourage attention. We're not performers, he said. We fix ships, we learn, we work. That's all. But Zephyra saw it differently. If humans see we work together, maybe they respect, maybe they learn too. Terran hesitated, then nodded. She was right. Showing what they could achieve together might inspire others to think bigger. And perhaps, just perhaps, it would change the way humans treated aliens like her. Their first test came sooner than expected. A merchant fleet arrived at the spaceport, requesting urgent repairs on a set of transport ships. Their engines were failing mid-flight, and the fleet's pilot feared disaster. Terran and Zephyra quickly assessed the ships. Terran handled the human-engineered systems, while Zephyra studied the alien modifications that had been added by various crews over the years. Working side by side, they repaired and upgraded the engines in record time. Zephyra suggested a modification to the energy conduits that no human had considered, improving stability and efficiency. The engines roared to life, more powerful and reliable than before. The fleet's captain stared in awe. I've never seen anything like this, he said. You improved our ships in ways we didn't know were possible. Terran smiled faintly. We just worked together. That's all. Zephyra's wings twitched nervously. but her chest swelled with pride. I help. I learn. We do more together. News of their success spread beyond the spaceport. Colonists and explorers from nearby systems sought them out. Eager for repairs and guidance, Terran and Zephyra began to train others, showing how human and alien skills could complement each other. Humans who had once doubted Zephyra's abilities now watched in amazement as she solved problems they considered unsolvable. One day, a young engineer approached them with a broken propulsion system. He looked skeptical at first, glancing at Zephyra. You're a dragon," he said cautiously. "Can you really help?" Zephyra tilted her head, claws hovering over the device. "I try. I help humans learn better." The engineer watched in disbelief as she carefully inspected the system, adjusted circuits, and suggested improvements. Within minutes, the propulsion system was repaired and enhanced. The engineer's eyes widened. I don't believe it," he muttered. You're incredible." Terran put a hand on the young engineer's shoulder. "See? Intelligence doesn't depend on shape or size. It's about thinking, learning, and working together. That's what Zephyra does. And now, she's helping you do it too." Zephyra blinked at him. "I learn. You learn. Together, we better." As months passed, Terran and Zephyra became a symbol across nearby star systems. Humans began to see the value in working with alien species. Zephyra's intelligence and creativity were undeniable. Colonists began including her in projects, seeking her input on ship design, logistics, and problem-solving. Terran realized that this partnership could inspire a new era, one where humans and aliens collaborated, learned from each other, and explored the universe together. Then came the real test. A neighboring colony reported a stranded expedition fleet trapped near a dangerous nebula. Their engines were failing, and the gravitational anomalies of the nebula made rescue attempts nearly impossible. Terran and Zephyra prepared immediately, loading advanced tools and schematics into a modified starship. The journey to the nebula was tense. The nebula's gases glowed with shifting colors, distorting navigation instruments, and interfering with communication systems. Terran piloted the ship carefully, while Zephyra monitored systems, analyzing anomalies, and suggesting course corrections. Unstable," Zephyra warned, pointing to fluctuating energy readings. "Engines fail if not careful," Terran nodded. "I know. Keep guiding me. We'll make it." When they reached the stranded fleet, the situation was worse than expected. Ships drifted dangerously close to the nebula's edge, their engines failing, and crews panicking. Terran coordinated with Zephyra to stabilize the situation. She calculated adjustments to each ship's systems, rerouting energy and correcting course. With Zephyra's guidance, Terran managed to dock with the nearest ship. They worked quickly, repairing engines and improving shields to withstand the nebula's turbulence. Zephyra suggested modifications that allowed the ships to move through gravitational anomalies safely. Within hours, the entire fleet was operational, ready to return to safe space. The expedition leader stared at them in awe. I don't know how to thank you. You saved us. All of us," Terran shrugged. "Just doing our job." Zephyra looked at the leader. "We learn together. We help humans, aliens, better if work together." That moment marked a turning point. Reports of Zephyra's abilities, alongside Terran's skill, reached the human colony's governing councils. People began to rethink prejudices against alien species. Intelligence, creativity, and courage were valued more than appearances. And Zephyra, once begging for leftovers, became a symbol of possibility, a reminder that anyone, no matter their origin, could contribute greatness. Back at their spaceport, Terran looked at Zephyra as she organized tools for their next project. "You know," he said, "when I first met you, I thought you were just a scavenger. I didn't see this. I didn't see what you could do. But now I understand. You're extraordinary." Zephyra blinked, tilting her head. "I just want to learn. I want to help humans better." Terran smiled faintly. "And you've done more than that. You've shown humans what's possible. You've changed everything." Zephyra's eyes glimmered with understanding. "Everything changed?" "Yes," Terran said, "because the moment I looked at you and realized what you could do, everything changed. Not just for me, not just for the workshop, but for everyone who will see what we can accomplish together." The stars outside twinkled, distant and endless. Terran and Zephyra stood side by side, surveying the spaceport and the ships that would soon carry humans and their allies across the galaxy. The future was uncertain, dangerous, and full of challenges, but it was also bright with possibility. Zephyra stretched her wings and let out a soft sigh. "We ready?" Terran placed a hand on her small shoulder. "Always. We face it together. Humans and others. Learning, building, exploring. That's our way. That's what we do." And so, they began their next project, a fleet of new starships, built with the combined knowledge of human mechanics and Zephyra's alien ingenuity. Each ship was faster, stronger, and safer than any that had come before. Colonists and explorers came to study, to learn, and to be inspired by the partnership that had made it possible. Zephyra's tail flicked happily as she adjusted a control panel, testing a new energy system she had designed. Terran worked beside her, guiding engines, adjusting calibrations, and marveling at her insights. Together, they created ships that could withstand the harshest conditions of space, vessels that carried not only technology but hope. Word spread across star systems. Humans and aliens could work together, achieve more than ever before, and build a future full of opportunity. Terran and Zephyra became legends not for their strength or size, but for their intelligence, courage, and willingness to collaborate. For Zephyra, the dragon who had once begged for leftovers, the journey had transformed her life. She had proven her worth, discovered her potential, and shown that even the smallest beings could achieve greatness. And for Terran, the grizzled mechanic, life had changed as well. He had learned that intelligence, courage, and heart were not limited to humans, and that working together could accomplish wonders beyond imagination. The stars stretched endlessly above the spaceport, and the galaxy waited. Terran and Zephyra, human and dragon, mechanic and genius, would face it together, learning, building, and exploring. And every time someone looked at them, they would see the proof that the universe held more than danger and hardship. It held possibility, partnership, and hope. Because the moment Terran had looked at Zephyra, the moment he truly recognized her potential, everything had changed. And together, they would make sure the universe knew it.